and sell the solar to the grid. And that way we're making more money, but it's actually better for the grid because the grid wants to be balanced. So we buy electricity when it's cheap and plentiful and send it to the grid when it's expensive and we're generating it. And obviously that goes to our local community. The way the grid works, we're supplying our neighbours with energy during the day. So that's quite a nice feeling as well. Also, we've just had an EPC done as part of the qualification for a heat pump, which is the next step we wanted to go to, get rid of the gas again. And we were amazed to find that we got an A rating on the EPC. So we haven't done anything that spectacular, obviously the solar panels and the battery, but it is possible. And it's quite surprising that we did that, so pleased with that. But what I want to talk about today, though, is something different, which is if you don't have the ability to do some of these things, either financially or because of your, is that still working? Because of your house, then maybe there's another way. So home-based energy generation, of course, has many advantages, which John and Dale have already talked about, but it's not suitable for everyone. There is a lot of investment required to do some of these things, and it's great that there's grants available, but not for everybody. So, is that still working? Okay. The other thing is properties aren't always suitable. I mean, if you live in a flat, or if you live in a conservation area, or maybe you rent your property, then you're not going to invest into solar panels and so on. So that's something you need to think about, obviously. Portability. I mean, it's great. Probably a lot of the people in the room have been in their house for a long time and plan to stay in their house for a long time, so the investment is worthwhile. But if you're maybe younger and you're still moving, then to spend a lot of money on solar panels, you won't necessarily get it back when you sell the house. The portability of the solution could be important as well. And also, as John pointed out in his graph, there's a lot of variation in generation during the seasons with solar. Obviously, in the summer, you get a lot of energy. You can't use it all. You can sell it back to the grid. But in the winter, it's a lot less, and therefore that seasonality is an issue. So the question is there an alternative? Okay, moved on already. Good. So one opportunity, and I should point out that I'm going to talk now about Ripple Energy. I've got no affiliation to Ripple Energy, and I'm not representing them. It's just something that I've seen as an opportunity we have invested in, and there are other opportunities out there. So basically what Ripple do is look to invest in larger community renewable energy projects, whether that's wind farms or solar farms. Please, if you want to understand more of this, I don't have any handouts or anything, look on the website or talk to me during the interval or whatever, and I can give you some more information. But basically they run wind farms and solar farms as cooperative projects. So Ripple identify the opportunities. There's a project which is kind of signed off and potentially ready to go but needs funding, and then it effectively crowdfunds for that by asking residents and the general public to buy shares effectively in that operation. So you can invest anything from as little as £25 up to the amount required to supply 120% of your electricity needs. The reason for that is tax reasons, which I can go into the details of, but you can buy anything that suits your pocket or requirements in terms of electricity, and you can do that either as a one-off payment to Ripple or as monthly instalments. And again, at the beginning of the project, you obviously have to put the money in up front, and they build the wind farm or solar farm to completion. They manage the whole operation of building it, and then at the end, once it's built and commissioned and starts generating, the ownership is then handed over to the cooperative. So you, as cooperative members, actually own the wind farm. The wind farm's guaranteed with a maintenance contract, repair, insurance, and so on, up to 25 years. The solar farm's up to 40 years, or for 40 years. And the way it works is, obviously you don't physically get the electricity that is generated by the wind farm, but the electricity is sold at market rate. That rate is negotiated every year because obviously at the moment the price is very volatile. And then you get the amount of money back that your part of the wind farm's sale of electricity to the grid provides. So if we move on to the next slide. We okay for time?
Just a few more minutes, yes.
Yeah, okay. So again, coming back to the issues I said at the beginning about renewable energy, Ripple has got lots of advantages. The investment cost per kilowatt hour, so per the amount of energy you get, is lower.
Sorry, Simon, I don't think the slide has moved on. There we go.
Yes, it had, but now it hasn't. Okay. So yeah, it's suitable for all property types. So the point is, it's you as the bill payer who is owning the ripple. It's not, you know, a piece of the fabric of your house, and therefore whether you rent or whether you've got a home in a renewable, what's the word I'm looking for? Conservation area, then it's absolutely fine. Similarly, if you live in a flat and you don't have a roof, etc., etc. The other thing is it's a hedge against energy costs. So the payback is variable, but clearly, you know, when the energy price goes up, the amount you sell your electricity for goes up, so you get a quicker repayment. The first project is a single wind farm in Wales, and they're currently receiving 27p per kilowatt hour. Now, if we always got 27p per kilowatt hour, the payback on the investment that I've made would be about 2.5 years, and then after that, it's free money. Now, clearly, that's not going to be the case, but the good news is, you know, if the price goes down, you don't get as much money, but your bill's lower, so it's a win-win in that respect. You're decoupled from the consistency of generation because it's just money off your bill. You know, you're not having to use the energy when it's generated. You're getting the money off the bill on an annual basis. As I said, 25-year lifespan, maintenance included. The key thing to say, though, is, I mean, this is by no means a get-rich-quick scheme. If you've got money to invest and you want to make money, then, you know, don't put it here. This is more about doing the right thing, supporting renewable energy, lowering your bills at the same time. But on average, I would say typically the payback would be 6 to 7 years, and then you've got an income after that off your electricity bill. So the key thing is, if you can't do solar, either for cost reasons or feasibility reasons in your property, then think about something like this.
Thank you very much. A really interesting alternative. Okay, now we have Chris Grasby, there we go. And he is a retired architect who used to work mainly on education building projects. But when he retired, he moved to the southwest of France and renovated an old stone building, which involved installing insulation and new heating systems. But recently, he found the opportunity to build in Graven Hill, and he's completed that project and wants to tell us about the energy efficiency things that he's put in place there. Great, thank you.
So that's our house. That's what we've built. People may say, well, that's a bloody weird house. But coming back to some of the points that Tom and the initial panel were making about the changes we might have to consider in the way we go about things in the future, I approached this project on the basis that we had some money. We wanted to do the right sort of thing. And the shape of the house is designed because we wanted to maximize the amount of roof space we had. So you start with an array of solar panels, ideally facing south. You then build a house underneath it like that. And you fill in underneath it like that with rooms, but a high ceiling over the living space is the way we did it. That's the picture of the house while we were constructing. You can't actually see it like that, but you can see the array of solar panels. We've put 25 panels on the roof, so not quite as much as Simon, but about 8.5 kilowatts. So we approached it on the basis that we wanted to do something which was perhaps a bit radically different, but approach life on the basis that you can't actually continue to live in the same sort of way. Now, I know it's not relevant perhaps to the vast majority of people in here today, because you'll be looking to upgrade your houses. So I then said to Tom, when he was discussing what I might talk about, he said, so, well, just say what it's like to live in a low-energy, highly insulated house. Well, it's very nice, actually. I can only encourage people to try and do the same sort of thing, because it is so much more comfortable. Now, the stories you hear about ventilation and needing to do this, that, and the other to avoid condensation and things like that, yes, you do need to consider it, and it's not an easy process. But obviously, there's a lot of help out there for people who want to do this. I have a friend who knows one of his colleagues from when he trained as an architect years ago, who's retrofitted a 3-story 1960s townhouse to passive house standards. Now, that's really, really going the full sort of distance, and it's taken him a long time. He's an architect, so he knew who to go to for help. But all I can say to everybody here, I've experimented myself because I've got that sort of background. Go to the guys who know about these sorts of things for the help and advice to make sure you don't make any blunders. We're still working through all of this, and we still haven't got our Powerwall battery up and running properly yet. It's one of those things as sort of trial and error, but all I can say is we need to make some changes. We need to look at things differently. What I hope our house demonstrates is a way that developers should be looking towards new housing developments generally. Let's have houses that face the right orientation so that people like my colleagues here on the left sort of actually don't face these dilemmas of sort of, do we get overshadowing? Have we got the right orientation? We should be considering this from grassroots as the way to go forward. Is to look at these buildings in this sort of way and not just say to people, well, we know what people want, you know, they want the traditional brick-built houses. So we're living at Graven Hill. We moved to Bicester 3 years ago. It's great. But I would say that the amount of ambition that I've seen at Graven Hill is really very poor and at a very low level. And it's very disappointing all round to see what Graven Hill Development Company, Village Development Company, is actually doing out there. That's my little sort of pitch from my orange box. So I'll hand over to the rest of the panel, and the floor is open to questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chris. So yes, we do have some time for questions, but I do need to leave some space for Exio and Home Energy Hubs to give a little overview of what they do at the end as well. So I'm going to send out my roving mic. Does anyone have any questions for the panel? Let's take 2 or 3 and then we'll get everyone's comment.
Thank you. Yes, I've got a question for John, actually. A quick reckoning. You seem to have about 15 grand's worth of equipment on the outside of your house. And my question is, how secure is that? And is it covered by your insurance policy? And do you have to list it separately? And does it affect your premium? Sorry, that's about 4 questions, but yeah, in the gist of what I'm saying.
Okay.
I live in a listed building, and the listing or the conservation of the listing regulation has precedence over the building regulations. The building I live in is built in 1935. There's no insulation under the floor, no insulation in the walls, no insulation in the flat roof. The windows are all single glazed and face north. So I wear appropriate clothing because there's no point in heating the place. It all just goes out the window or out the walls. Is there any possibility that we can change the law so that these unscrupulous, greedy, selfish developers do not make money at the expense of people's health and well-being?
Thank you. Let's see what our panel has to say. Okay, one more.
So my question is about suppliers, because I'm aware from my own experience and from others that it's very difficult to find a good, trusted, recommended supplier who can do anything in a feasible timescale. They are all so busy, which is great. But I'm just wondering, maybe Dale could answer a question about this, about training, apprenticeships, getting the labour force together, and also how, as an individual, you can find a good supplier.
Great, thank you. Well, let's start at the beginning. Let's start with John. Do you want to talk a bit about the security of your equipment?
Yeah, that's a good question, because when I first got the solar panels fitted, 2 things crossed my mind straight away. One was whether I was allowed to do it from a planning point of view. Because it's a new development, they didn't seem to be particularly worried, so that was the first one out. The second thing was that whether I needed to tell the insurance company, which obviously I did, and they just included it. They didn't worry about that at all, so that was insured. Regarding the Powerwall and things, the other equipment, changes to the electrics, you have to tell the electric company that you're going to do all this stuff, because they need to know that you're suddenly going to be sending energy to them, not just taking it from them. But all that just worked absolutely fine. There was no problem at all. Interestingly, the question at the back about suppliers, obviously you realise that I managed to fall into 2 traps, which was of my own making in some ways, but it was really good when I did get a good company. They came along, they took out those old dead batteries, they put in the Tesla Powerwall, they did all the solar panel, Solar Edge, put the Tesla Gateway 2 in, the Zappi charger. Great company, efficient, really neat, did a good job.
Talk to John afterwards if you want their name.
Yeah.
Quite expensive, but
Just to say on that, I mean, what we found was...
Oh, I'm not sure if this one is working.
What we said was... is that working? Yeah. What I was recommended by a couple of people was big companies like Tesla with a Powerwall, maybe SunPower with the a really well-established solar panel supplier. If you go to companies that have been approved by Tesla, by SunPower, by big battery companies, solar panel companies, then generally they have very strict audit criteria where they will have verified the supplier, and to put their name to them, then you know that they're good. So I bear that in mind as well.
Yeah. And do you have anything to add about the security of your panels or batteries?
No, just echo what John said. The solar panels are definitely covered by the insurance, and the Powerwall, I've clarified that's just covered by the normal insurance. Obviously, it's very important that you go through all the right steps with the DNO, the distribution network office with the electricity suppliers, but no, it's fine, no problem. Sorry.
Chris, do you have anything to add on the security or the supplier side?
I think I would just voice that opinion that it's terribly difficult to find a supplier who is going to be able to do it within the next 12 months or even more. But I do think I would just sort of go with that view that look at websites. Don't just accept someone who's advertising on the back of the paper or comes around and knocks on your door. Look at their longevity, look at the projects they've been involved with. We were very lucky to find someone for our solar installation of the batteries, but I do know that they're now coming up. They won't come up to this area. They're based in Reading, but they won't come up here anymore purely because they're just too busy. So, I mean, I think that's where the app and the whole community here of Better Century can actually do a lot of good work for helping people to understand. But obviously, there are people around who can point you in the right direction too.
Yeah, so Dale, do you have anything to say on those points, the security and the suppliers?
Not so much on the security. I think that's been well covered. But yes, certainly in terms of suppliers, they are there. I mean, they're in short supply, I would say. There are a lot of good installers out there. But I mean, for example, all the schemes that I sort of glossed over, but all the central government funding that's been pumped into Retrofit at the moment, we've just won another 6.42 million at Oxfordshire County Council. That's just across the 4 districts. Oxford City Council have their own access to funding. So there's even more coming into So that has also caused a shortage of suppliers, because we're obviously, if it's local back scheme, like the schemes that we're running, the Home Efficiency Hub, etc., we're using very good suppliers, and it's all local authority backed, so it's very good. Can I just say, also, we are very lucky in Oxfordshire, I think, to have an organisation called Cozy Homes Oxfordshire. There's leaflets on the table over there. They have a supplier network which is well vetted, and again, it's all based on trust. So we need every installation to go ahead. Now, as we scale up the installations, of course, there's always snagging, there's always issues, but it's all based on trust, so it has to be put right. So I would say that's a really good source as well. There's a big future plan as well. Abingdon and Whitney College have literally just 2 weeks ago launched their Zero Carbon Skills Construction Centre, or something like that. Really excellent resource, and that's all about training the next generation of installers, but also taking the existing installers, such as gas safe registered engineers, and retraining them into things like air source and ground source heat pumps.
Excellent. And can I just ask your opinion on this piece around listed buildings and what they can do within the rules?
I mean, again, under our schemes, we are coming across a lot of buildings, a lot of properties in conservation areas, very difficult to do. Obviously, as the county council, it's the district councils and the city council that have the planning role as part of their portfolio. But we have very good contacts with all the planning departments because we're having to work very, very closely with them to try and get things done. So as you mentioned, external wall insulation, for example, is just a no-no because it changes the look. So it's other things like internal wall insulation. Loft insulation is well hidden away, or if you've got a flat roof, I think you mentioned, sir, there are solutions there, pricey, if you don't fall under the rather narrow eligibility criteria for all the various different schemes. I fully appreciate. So again, I would say for Cozy Homes Oxfordshire might be a good source of initial sort of assistance. They can do something, first bit of advice free, and they've also got something called Plan Builder, which you can all, if you're an Oxfordshire resident, we basically pay for the license. That Plan Builder is free for you all to go on and make a start to look at the sort of things that you can do in your property. But yes, it's not easy. There's no silver bullet, I would say.
And anything you wanted to add, John?
Yeah, I was just interested in your comment about making new houses that aren't to this problem. And of course, I sit on planning, and I just keep banging on about trying to get improvements. It's very difficult. But that was why I raised the point originally, when I started, saying that the Charwell Local Plan Review is out for consultation until November the 3rd. Please go on to it. There is a lot of stuff that we've managed to push through on all this energy efficiency and new housing that's going to be coming, but there are some bits in there which you'll see. I mean, one of the things I find really annoying is there's lots of words like should and might and could be, and they need to be will. So I want you to send in those comments. Change these words. It's not might be, it will. And I've also been, it was interesting when we were talking about Graven Hill. I know that standard has dropped. Now, I'm not part of the Graven Hill Development Company, but some of the councillors are, and that is going to be looked into about how the standard is dropping. And of course, the thing that I've been also trying to do, how do you do affordable housing to these high standards? The way to do it, remember I came from the motor industry, is modular housing. Build it in a factory.
Okay, thank you very much, John. I'm terribly sorry. Our panelists have shared so much wonderful insights that we don't have any more time for questions, but I'm sure they'll be around if you are able to nobble them. I'm going to wrap up this session now, so maybe we can just give a thanks to all of our wonderful speakers. And I'd like to invite Home Efficiency Hubs, and Exio Energy up to share about their work.
Shall I go first? Thank you. My name is Ben Robinson. I'm a director of Exio Energy, but also another company called Cambridge Solar. I've been in this renewable energy game for 23 years now. I started as a trainee. I started with a person called Simon Peltenberg that then went off and set up Ripple Energy. And so on Thursday, I was with Paul Cinilio at the Retrofit event in Winchester. And last Tuesday, Cambridge Solar, we won Solar Project of the Year, Residential Solar Project of the Year. And that was a new build development, 9 properties, 5 two-bedroom properties, 4 one-bedroom properties. And after 14 months of monitoring, the average cost for running all of those properties is 12 pence per day. And that's all about the thermal mass. It's all about passive solar gain, and it's about insulating properly. So we, in regards to that question about trusted installers, I would suggest going to Which Trusted Traders. So both of my companies are Which Trusted Traders. You could go online and you can find those reputable firms that are close to you. And the other point about paying people for, if you're having a large development on your doorstep, every large development, because I've been involved with large scale all the way through to solar-powered vaccine fridges in Africa, but the large scale developments have to allocate a certain amount of their profits annually to the local community. So it's there for the taking. Generally, they're used for energy efficiency schemes. So whether it's for putting in solar on a local village hall or that's in the location, or insulating all of the properties that are in that location. But that money is available, and they have a duty of care to do that. But yeah, I specialize in solar PV, battery storage, and EV charging points that work with those technologies, so that whole ecosystem. Yes, we're all moving towards heat pumps. Using electricity isn't the most efficient way of heating your home. Insulating is the thing to do. And but if you're having a heat pump, you've got to get that power from somewhere. So renewables are the way. Solar works well. It's tried, it's tested, and yet efficiencies continue to improve. And what is happening more and more these days is a thing called grid services. So you can actually install your Tesla Powerwall, and you can allocate the power, and the grid companies can use that power to balance the network. And they will sometimes give you free electricity so that you can shed because they're generating too much, and you can fill the battery, but then also they will buy it from you, from your battery, at a premium. I've seen rates at £2.50 per kilowatt hour when they need it badly.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And you're over there if you want to talk more. Home efficiency hubs.
Hi everyone, my name's Laura. I'm a Community Engagement Officer. I work on a project called the Home Efficiency Hub. It is a specific project for a certain part of Bicester, but I'm happy to talk to others outside of that project area. And it's a national scheme funded by central government, Department for Energy Security, and it's to try and look at mass deployment of heat pumps. So we're obviously working very closely with the district network operator to make sure that there is capacity on the grid to enable that, and that's why the area was chosen, because there is. So it's actually the Greenwood Estate, Bicester, so all of the Poets streets and closes. So I'm on a table over there. If that area is where you live, please come and talk to me. But just as the fellow speaker said, it's really, our main offer is to look at a home efficiency plan. So it's what's most appropriate for your own home, and insulation is key to any renewable technology, including heat pumps. So the plan will be bespoke to your home, completed by trained surveyors, and it will just make recommendations for improvements as to what you could do to make your home more efficient, save you money, future-proof. And obviously there are some financial incentives attached to that. So there is an increase in the heat pump grant from the government now, which is great. So it's now £7,500. The bonus of coming with us rather than going separately through gov.uk is that I'm your point of contact through the whole customer journey. So yeah, happy to talk to you any more about this.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for participating so wonderfully in this session, our speakers and questions from the floor. I'm now going